Game devs are lying to you, and they have been for decades. And no, I'm not talking about false marketing promises, I'm talking about literally in the games themselves. Mechanics are often hidden from players to enhance the gaming experience, but some have been quite controversial or exploitive. Dark Souls is known for having a multitude of secrets and hidden mechanics, but the game never outright lies to you. Here in XCOM, however, the game is telling me I only have an 85% chance to hit, even at point blank range. This is a lie. In reality, I can't miss this shot. The game is giving me a hidden 15% accuracy bonus because I missed my attack last turn, and it would make me feel bad if I missed again at such high accuracy. The devs built the game in a way that directly lies to the player. You would think in a strategy game you would want the player to know exactly what their chance of success is on any given action, but they hide this information for a very specific reason. Fair is not fun. Reality dictates that you can miss an 85% accuracy shot, or even a 99% one, but it will always feel awful when you do. The lead designer of XCOM 2 said in an interview, "Players may view that number not from a mathematical sense, but from an emotional sense. If you see an 85% chance to hit, you're not looking at that as a 15% chance of missing. You see an 85% chance and you think, that's close to 100, that basically should not miss." Games lie to the players like this all the time. For example, coyote time allows the player to jump a few frames after they've already left the ground. Players often need a bit of leeway, otherwise they'd be constantly sliding off ledges when attempting to jump. Players will often attribute their failures to the devs or the game itself, rather than their own failure to understand the game mechanics and the skill required to use them. Devs want the game to feel more fair and less punishing for the players, even if it's technically less fair. Some games even give players an invincibility window just before death to avoid the experience of getting killed in a single heavy blow or one-shotted. These are called forgiveness mechanics, implemented to make sure the player doesn't attribute their failures to anything other than their skill. Enemy hitboxes are slightly smaller than their attacks, their hurt boxes bigger than their bodies. Enemy AI will intentionally miss shots when you exit cover or if they're currently off screen. Even the difficulty you choose is a lie. Many games have dynamic difficulty settings to make the game easier when you die too much. We devs need to constantly make all these little lies to make our players feel better about themselves, because in reality, everyone is just shit at video games. Most players aren't here for a grueling, realistic experience, but a less fair one that allows them to have more fun. Hidden mechanics are not just made to make the game feel more fair, but also more intense. One example is how devs will make health bars convey information incorrectly to the player. In many games, the health bar is actually weighted toward the end. This artificially creates more close call moments. Some games weigh the health bars of enemy bosses, so the player will play riskier and more aggressive. This way, when the player fails, they will feel like they just barely lost and just need one more try to win. Hidden mechanics that benefit your opponent are often much more controversial. It can feel cheap when the reason you died is because the game tricked you or lied to you in these ways. Even more controversial is when these hidden mechanics arise in multiplayer games. Deceiving health bars could cause a player to trip up when calculating their next move, but it could make it feel more awesome for getting a comeback at such low HP. Tons of multiplayer games have catch-up mechanics that are clear to the players, like fatal blows in MK11 or getting better items when behind in Mario Kart. However, when games keep these mechanics hidden from players, it may upset fans. Gears of War faced some backlash when it was revealed that new players received a damage buff in PvP for their first few kills. If you ever had that feeling of beginner's luck or skill, there's a good chance it was neither. New players often get a handicap buff because 90% of players who don't get a kill in their first game will never play again. In Dota, a player's critical chances increase every time they miss a potential crit to make it feel more fair. This feels more reasonable to the player because this mechanic makes up for any bad RNG to keep the player closer to the expected result. Think of it as another catch-up mechanic. In Smash Bros, the random items will spawn closer to the player who's losing to keep the match close. I've even been thinking about manipulating RNG in my own dice game to make up for players who constantly get shitty rolls. Knowing about these little lies can make the game feel like it rewards failure, but the absence of these systems would make the experience far worse. All these private game development tactics are built to make a more enjoyable experience for all players, but when monetization is attached, invisible mechanics can be quite exploitative. Loot boxes and Gacha have been at the forefront of this controversy. In the US, there is no legislation surrounding loot boxes, meaning developers can lie about probabilities or even content contained within the box. Many companies have already been publicly shamed for these practices, but many still fall for these schemes. In Genshin Impact, the devs are legally obligated to disclose the contents of their gacha and the probabilities associated with them, according to Chinese law. However, the percentage the game shows us is not wholly accurate. Laws around gacha regulation exist to increase transparency between the vendor and the consumer. but Genshin has been able to circumvent this by making their gacha system extremely complicated. This is the equation needed to calculate your chance of obtaining a specific item you might want, and that's just for 4-star characters. Next up, we have hidden pay-to-win mechanics. Pay-to-win is bad enough on its own, but some games use microtransactions to subtly manipulate their players to spend more money. In Call of Duty Warzone, an ex-developer leaked that the game alters the skill-based matchmaking when a player makes purchases. After buying a weapon skin, a player will be put in a lobby with lower skilled players to give the impression that they are playing better because of the new skin. These lies are no longer little and hurt the player base just to deepen the pockets of Activision executives. Finally, we have play-to-earn games. This is a bit more on the false promises side, but it's worth mentioning because of how these games have internal systems associated with real money, or at least cryptocurrency. In NFT games like Axie Infinity, the player expects to earn in-game currency to buy more in-game tokens and cash them out for real profit. This lie comes in a couple forms. The first is the worth of the play-to-earn model. As of December, the buy-in for a player to start playing Axie Infinity was up to $1,000, with payout averaging to the average daily wage in the Philippines and as low as below minimum wage. For the in-game economy to remain stable, new players will constantly need to be onboarded while others cash out. The second lie comes from the updates and the game's economy and system. Devs attempted to shift the economy by changing the amount of currency players can earn per hour, affecting how players could earn their money back, after they had already bought into the game with different expectations. This video is just a few examples of devs lying to the players. It happens much more than the players ever know, but is not in the interest of the devs to ever share them. Even when these mechanics exist to make the game more fun for all, players will feel cheated when they realize their achievement of overcoming a boss only happened because it was made easier for them. Devs will continue to help the players in subtle ways, which is why we should value experiences like Jump King or Dark Souls that leave players to adapt to the game rather than the other way around. When it comes to PvP games, I really think it depends on a case-by-case basis on whether or not these systems are good or bad for the players. However, when hidden mechanics are involved with monetization, I find it extremely exploitative and dangerous. For the most part, devs will lie to the players to enrich their gameplay, and I think that's a huge positive for the game's community. But the malicious lies to further profits need to be called out to prevent these issues in the future. What do you think of the different lies devs make for players? Did this video give you cursed knowledge? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe, and see you next time.